Welcome, everybody, to the More Than Numbers podcast. I'm your host, Bryce. Typically, I'm joined by my podcast host, Dave, but as you can see this week, I am flying solo. Very excited to get into the episode this week as I get to talk a little bit more about soccer. So, this week, I'm going to focus on the U.S. men's soccer and their international break between the two games that they played between Germany and Ghana. I want to dive into the results. I want to dive into my thoughts. We're going to get into maybe the state of U.S. soccer and realistically where they are leading into this next World Cup. And let's do it. So I'm going to start with the Germany game. Obviously, the result was not what we were looking for. The U.S. lost 3-1 to Germany, and I'm extremely disappointed with this result. The U.S. should be in a far better place than realistically where they are at right now. For the German team to come in and beat us 3-1 on our soil is just not acceptable. Not at this point, especially to me, considering where Germany was. They just got a new coach. They were coming off a really bad result in their last international break. And so I'm thinking that we should be getting a result out of this game, not losing 3-1. Especially since Germany didn't even have their strongest lineup. Now, they had, I would say, still an A team. They definitely had an A team, but they're missing Kimmich. I think they're still missing, another striker. Typically, Sane plays on one side and Gnabry plays on the other. So Gnabry wasn't starting in this game. But for the U.S. to lose 3-1 to them with essentially what is our strongest team, to me tells us we are just not close. Now, I know they had a good bounce back game versus Ghana, but Ghana's not even ranked in the top 50 in FIFA men's soccer right now. So I know Ghana's given us fits before in World Cups, but ultimately, that's not really a fair comparison to the team that Germany is or the players and capabilities that they have. So I'm really focusing on that Germany game and where the U.S. men kind of stand. And to me, we're going to have the same essentially result that we had in the last World Cup. We get out of the group stage and we lose in the first round. So I'm not really happy about this result. I think the U.S. men's soccer have a long way to go. And it's still so frustrating to see that with the players that are now on that field. I mean, every single player we're looking at in the starting lineup in that game is playing professionally overseas in Europe, was exactly what we want. I don't see one player that's not playing at a top level for us anymore in our starting lineup. And that tells me, personally, that we should get a result from Germany, especially with where they're at. You looked at that first half, and that's the only kind of hope that it really gave me was watching that first half, because I thought we were even with Germany. I thought possession was really good. We created multiple chances. Obviously, Pulisic, our Captain America, had the worldy, absolutely exquisite goal from him. I mean, beautiful. And he's definitely been doing that in AC Milan. He's staying in form, which is great to see. That's why that move to AC Milan for him was so important to get regular football. We saw him score twice, one against Ghana, and obviously that spectacular goal versus Germany. I think we're struggling to still use our new forward, Bologna. Still, they're trying to integrate him in. I don't think we're quite used to playing with him, especially against better teams. Now, I saw us use him much better in the Ghana game, but again, the different level of competition, plays a factor. So ultimately, that first half was what I'm looking at as hope for the U.S. team. But I'm starting to get really tired of thinking that, like, okay, yeah, we played a little bit better, and we played them for a half, because ultimately it's a full 90-minute game. So they have to be able to put a full 90-minute performance in against the best teams in the world. And what I feel this U.S. team is still at is where we were at when we lost to the Dutch in the World Cup. Ultimately, you saw better technical players, you saw better tactics, you saw better decision making, especially in the final third, and I feel we saw that yet again versus Germany. The reason I'm going to say that is two of the goals, well, I say two of the goals, but I really got to say all three. All three of the goals felt like they carved through the United States, even if they had a couple lucky bounces, with less players versus more of our defenders. And they were still able to score goals. So the first goal, Sane cutting in through the right, dicing through multiple players. Lucky bounce goes to Gundogan. Gundogan slides, beautifully slides him in, weight of the pass. Turner makes a really good save. No follow-up from our defenders. Gundogan comes in and slams it into the back of the net, right? We were up 1-0. You got to get into the half without giving up a goal, protect that lead. They failed to do so, right? So anybody's game at that point. Going into the second half, this is where I was really, really disappointed with the performance of the U.S. team. To give up 2 goals in the second half, in the facet that they did, ultimately the game was over way before the final whistle. Once that third goal went in, game was over. U.S. weren't coming back. I was really disappointed with the third goal, especially. Musala, again, cutting in, dicing through multiple players. Lucky bounce goes to their forward, right? But when I look back at that goal, it was Musala and let me look up the forward's name, Fulkrug. Yeah, hopefully I pronounced that right. So it was those two players versus essentially our entire back four and a defensive midfielder. So 2 players carved through five of our defensive players to ultimately score the third goal. And that's just something you can't have happen at the highest level. If Musala dribbles through a couple players and shoots from 25 out, upper 90, past Turner, you kind of have to live with that because you look at it and say, wow, what a special goal. Essentially like the Pulisic goal, right? But for that to happen, when we're 2-1 down, trying to get back into the game is just a killer. And that's what we continue to see with the U.S. men's team, especially on defense against the best players and teams in the world. They constantly just let us down. They let in easy goals that realistically should not happen and ultimately cost us the game. And we're not able to see it out or get back into it. So, I was very, very disappointed with how, that game went and ended, especially after that first half performance. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse and kind of, circle back, but if the U.S. is able to get to a point of that first half performance on a consistent 90-minute basis, then I think we will be in a state that we can do damage in a major tournament. Until then, we will continue to see the United States be on hopes and prayers and work rate only. And we're going to continue to get bounced in the first round of World Cups. Maybe we make it to the second round, but that's realistically our cap right now until they can prove it against the best teams consistently. All right, on to the Ghana game. Now, the good news, at least with the U.S., is that they had a bounce-back game against Ghana. I change in formation a little bit. We went in and played a 4-3-3 against Germany. Technically, the lineup against Ghana was a 4-2-3-1, and I think that's going to be our best lineup moving forward. I don't think the U.S. can realistically fully play a 4-3-3, and the reason I think the 4-2-3-1 is going to be better for us is, hopefully they continue to okay, I didn't know if I wanted to say this, but I'm going to say it. I hope that Reyna and Berhalter can stay on good terms because ultimately Reyna is one of our best attacking midfielders that we have. And I saw the big difference of that in the Ghana game. They pushed him forward a little bit more under Bolongan, right? And I think that made a world of difference. You saw 2 goals from Reyna. I think you saw more players in the box consistently than when we played against Germany. It was a little bit too individualized against Germany, and that made a big difference in the Ghana game. Right? We saw Reyna multiple times in the box, right? He got the first goal for us by following up. And his second goal, obviously, yes, it was on a free kick that was well put together, but him being in a more advanced role is just going to do much better for the United States. So, formation wise, I think Berhalter needs to move forward with that 4-2-3-1 that allows us to have more attacking options, especially with the youngsters that we have on the field. What's going to be interesting is how you're going to play the two midfielders. Obviously, we had Musa and we had McKennie, but Tyler Adams is hurt right now, right? So, how does that lineup look with Tyler Adams? Oh, I apologize. Cardoso played with Musa in the middle against Ghana, so that my mistake there. But when I'm thinking on that, who's going to be in the two midfielders if Tyler Adams is healthy? Musa, McKennie, Adams. To me, you can't drop Reyna. That's at least my opinion. I think Reyna has way too much attacking ability to be dropped like he was in the last World Cup. So, that's what I was talking about. Like if Berhalter and him can stay on good terms, crossing your fingers at this point. But, that's what you hope for because Reyna's just too dynamic of a player and too good of a finisher to leave out. If you decide to play Musa, McKennie, and Adams, I think you're going to see exactly what we saw in the last World Cup. You're going to see work rate, woo, from the United States. Obviously, you're going to see some good technical ability, but you're not going to see a difference maker in the midfielder that leads to goals. I don't think any of those three players, Musa, McKennie, and Adams, are good enough to break the best teams in the world down technically and tactically. I think you have to have a player like Gio Reyna in there to do something special, like a Pulisic, right? So for me, he's got to be a starter. Hopefully he can keep his attitude right. There's been reports that it's been his attitude. Hopefully he can stay healthy. He's had major health concerns as well, playing for Dortmund, multiple injuries. So we hope for the best there. What I'm very disappointed with, though, from the United States, and I was a little bit shocked to see it, honestly. It didn't sometimes feel like that when you were watching the game, but the possession, both games that they played in this international break versus Germany and Ghana, they were outpossessed on both occasions. That's not ideal. I really I want to see our numbers way more on the 50-50 possession. I thought, especially from this last World Cup, I saw much better decision-making in possession out of the United States, and I was hoping to see that continue to progress. 40% possession against Germany is not good. And then against Ghana, 44% possession. So to be outpossessed by Ghana, 56-44, I mean, I just think we should be better than that. And I know I'm going to go a little bit into the rankings, and they don't really mean a lot. I mean, there's a little bit part to play in the rankings sometimes because you get a gist of where the team is at and performance-wise on a consistent basis, and that's what FIFA ranks it on. So for Ghana to be outside of the top 50 and to lose the possession battle against them, to me, kind of speaks volume. And I know I'm being very nitpicky here because they won the game 4-0, but all of that damage was done in the first half. So you didn't see more goals. You didn't see putting 5-6 in on Ghana. Not a killer, when you're up 4-0, right? You're kind of picking at scraps there to just find something to talk about. But ultimately, I'm looking at more than just the teams that we should be beating, right? So in that Ghana game, Bolongan scored great goal. As we should have, though. It was a very bad mistake on the defense. He slips, Weah picks it up, slots it into him. And you want to see that. You want to see our forward scoring instead of just Pulisic and randoms, right? And random other people's, right? So seeing that result of him scoring for us was fantastic. Like I said, Reyna getting 2 goals, we get the penalty, Pulisic puts it away. Always good to see Pulisic on the score sheet for us. Keeping him in form is always going to be the best for the United States as well. So really good there, but possession-wise, I just don't think we should be losing possession to them. So shots on target was great. We had 8 shots to their 2. Total shots 13 for us, 7 for them. So, besides the possession, we definitely dominated in every other sense of the game, which is great. And so, it's hard to find a lot of negatives in a 4-0 win. Ultimately, you did the right things. Ultimately, you had some good individual performances. You won the tactical battle clearly, when you beat a team 4-0. And we did see some shift in the U.S. lineup, which I liked. As I mentioned, Cardoso coming into the midfield. He changed it up on the back line. We had Hansen come in at left back, so that was good to see. But I like the consistency of the front 4. Well, really, I say the front 3, and then he moved Reyna up in that change of formation. So Pulisic on the left, Weah on the right, and Bolongan up front is great to see. I wonder if, maybe he could have started a different forward. You're being a little bit nitpicky there. Ultimately, I think they shouldn't. He ended up getting his goal in the first half, which was really, really good to see. So, all in all, if I'm thinking of their international break, I think I'm going to give it a C ranking. And for me, the reason I'm going to give it a C ranking is just too much on that Germany game. That overall for me with that Germany game really was disheartening because of that second half performance. And so a team like Ghana, I'm expecting us to get a result. A team like Germany, I want to see where we are currently at. And we're not there. We're just not there. So ultimately, for me, a C performance by the United States on their international break. Let's see what happens on the next one. Hopefully, we're still playing some better teams so that we can really see where the group is at and continue to push. I don't really like on international breaks where they play these friendlies versus nobodies or teams that we really should just be beating. We should always be playing somebody that's going to challenge us in one, if not both games, especially if they're just friendlies. You have to test the squad. You have to see where we're at every single month. You just can't at this point continue to play teams and not challenge yourselves. We're past that point, I believe, in the national team setup, or we should be, especially with the guys we can pull in now from Europe who are playing at big teams. So, like I said, ultimately for me, I'm giving the United States a C performance overall of the 2 games. Maybe I'm being really harsh there. Let me know what you think. I love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you guys think they were a B or an A. Maybe you thought the Germany game was more of a fluke with some of the goals that we saw. Maybe with the bounce back game against Ghana, we're flying a little bit higher than where we're really at. So leave a comment for me if you want. I'd love to hear it so that I can reply back. And guys, do me a favor. All right? Do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Give the video a like. Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully we're back next week with Dave. So I'm not flying solo over here. And look forward to the next segment. Until then, guys, we'll see you later.